Today I'm going to show you how to make my favorite food cart halal chicken. I get it in town and it's delicious. It's one of my favorite things, but it's really simple to meal prep and make at home. And today I'm going to be using some chicken thighs. You can also use chicken breasts if you need a lower fat item, but I think the thighs are definitely more flavorful, so that's what I'm going to go with today. I'm also going to be making a yellow rice and the white sauce that goes on top. So I'll show you how to do all of those things and then how to put it all together. So to start, I'm going to get a marinade going for the chicken, which is important for the flavor. So I'm just gonna take a little measuring cup here and I'm going to add some lemon juice. We're gonna get about 20 grams of lemon juice, which I think will be about the size of one lemon. Yeah, just about. And then next I'm going to add some olive oil. I'm going to do 12 grams of that. And then I've got 2 cloves of garlic, which I put in here and minced up. And it always gets stuck, so I use a fork just to get everything out. There's probably a better tool on the market, but this is the one I've got. Okay, it's about 12 grams worth, but that's not super important because again, we're just making a marinade here. So 2 cloves of garlic will be fine. Next, I'm gonna add in my spices. So I'm gonna go with cumin first and use 1 1/4 teaspoons of the cumin. One teaspoon of sea salt. This Redmond stuff is my favorite. And then 1 teaspoon of dried oregano. A 1/2 teaspoon of turmeric. And 1 teaspoon of paprika. Okay, and then I'm just gonna kind of stir all that together in this cup. So it all gets well incorporated. Then I'm gonna take my kind of one of these big Ziploc bags, and I'm gonna take my chicken thighs. This is 1.8 pounds, so anything between 1.5 pounds and 2 pounds should work for this recipe. I'm just gonna dump those right into the Ziploc. Then I'm gonna take the little marinade I just made and pour that inside. Just get as much of it as you can in there. Then I'm just gonna seal that. Try to get some of the extra air out. That just helps seal in the flavor a little bit better. Definitely make sure it's sealed. And then you're just gonna mix it all up with your hands so that the marinade is coating all of the chicken. And you want it to marinate for 1 to 4 hours. You can marinate that right in your refrigerator. You don't want to marinate it for too much longer than that because the chicken can get mushy and that's gross. We don't want that. Okay, so once it kind of visually looks like everything's incorporated and all the chicken pieces are covered, you're just gonna pop that into the fridge for that 1 to 4 hours. Next, I'm gonna work on the yellow rice. So to do this, I'm going to get a heavy pot. I'm using my cast iron Dutch oven today. It cooks nice and evenly, and I'm gonna put 24 grams of butter into the bottom of that. Ooh, that was perfect. Got lucky. And then I'm going to put it on the stove, let that melt, and add a few spices to that. So I will show you that in just a second here when I get this on the heat. All right, so now that the butter is all melted, I'm gonna add some more of my spices. I'm gonna add a ½ teaspoon of cumin, or excuse me, turmeric, and a ¼ teaspoon of cumin. And then I'm gonna stir those up in the butter just until fragrant, so about 1 minute. And while that's working, I'm gonna get my rice ready. So I'm gonna get 270 grams of rice and I'm gonna rinse that before I put it in here. All right, I've got my rinsed rice here, so I am going to just dump that right in. And again, this is on medium heat. I'm putting the rice in here so that it will toast up a little bit before I add the chicken broth and everything else. So I'm just gonna kind of mix in the rice with the butter and the spices. And then I'm just gonna kind of let it sit for about 4 minutes. I might stir it once or twice just to make sure that nothing on the bottom burns. But other than that, I'm just gonna kind of let it sit there and do its thing. All right, so it's been about 4 minutes and it seems nice and toasty. So now I'm going to add my chicken broth. Set that up here. So we're gonna do 20 ounces of chicken broth. I really like this Kettle and Fire low sodium one. This whole container is 32 ounces, so I'm not gonna use the whole thing. Okay, now I'm gonna add some more salt and pepper. I just kind of wing it here. I don't like it too salty, so I'm kind of modest with that. And a little bit of pepper. And then I'm just going to stir that to incorporate. And then I'm gonna increase the heat and bring that to a boil. And while that's working, I'm gonna get my pan hot for the chicken over here. All right, for the chicken, I've got this pan hot. I'm gonna add a little bit of olive oil here to the bottom. Get that to coat. And then I'm gonna add my chicken, which I just took out of the fridge. Make sure you separate those. And make sure you've got a pan big enough to handle all of them, of course, too. Okay. And then ideally, I'm gonna cook these about 5 minutes on each side. So I'm gonna just let that sit. And now that my rice is boiling, I'm going to cover it. And I'm gonna turn this down to low and just let it simmer for 15 minutes. Undisturbed. I'm not gonna stir it or anything. All right, after 5 minutes has passed, you are going to flip the chicken and get the other side. And we're gonna cook for 5 minutes on this side. All right, the rice is done, so I'm going to take that off of the heat. And I'm gonna let that set for 15 more minutes in the pot. And then my chicken, I'm going to turn this down to low. I'm gonna move it around a little bit just to kind of rotate where everything's sitting. And I'm going to let it simmer at a low heat for about 10 more minutes or until the temperature gets to 165 degrees. All right, while my chicken is finishing up, I'm just gonna get some of the other stuff ready that I'm going to put with the dish. So I'm gonna take a head of iceberg lettuce here and I'm just gonna chop it up and then store it in this little Tupperware so it's really easy to grab when I want to make the dish. And then I also like to put cucumber in it. So I have some of this left from the garden. I'm just gonna peel that and get a few slices ready to go for tonight. All right, so now those two things are ready to go. Now I'm gonna clean this cutting board off and get it ready for the chicken. Next, I'm gonna make the halal white sauce. This is just really good drizzled over the top of everything. So I'm gonna start with some yogurt here. I'm using a non-fat for this one today. And we're gonna start with 226 grams, which I believe is about a cup. Yeah, I think that's a cup. This is probably better with a nice full fat yogurt or more mayonnaise in it, but I'm trying to make like a lightened up version that just is a little bit more macro friendly, that's all. Okay, so after you have the yogurt in there, I'm gonna rinse my spoon off really quick. You're gonna add in 26 grams of mayonnaise. So it will have a little bit of that nice mayonnaise flavor and some fat. All right. And we're gonna add in a half teaspoon of sugar. $14 grams of apple cider vinegar. $10 grams of lemon juice. And then salt and pepper to taste. So I'm just gonna kind of put in what I think sounds good, and then I'll taste it and adjust if needed. It's not a lot, maybe start with a 1/4 teaspoon each, and then you're just gonna mix it all up in there. And it shouldn't be too thick because you do want to be able to pour it. Mine is a little thick because I used a Greek yogurt. So you might even opt for a regular yogurt for this recipe, but I'm just kind of using what I have in the fridge. It's pretty good. I'm actually going to use a little bit more lemon juice in there, so it's more acid. And then more salt. Okay, I am happy with that. So you can just store it in the fridge until you use it. I really like these little weck jars. I put everything in there. The lid just sits right on top, and then you just store it in the fridge until you're ready to use it. The chicken is almost done, so I'm going to take it off the stove and I'm going to dice it up into smaller pieces on this cutting board. And then I'll throw it back in the pan to finish it. So it should be almost cooked at this point. I will temp it and check, but usually when I cut into it, I can tell if there's any pink left that it needs to be cooked longer. And there's lots of nice flavors and bits in the bottom of this pan, so I want to keep that so that when I cut the chicken up into smaller pieces, it kind of absorbs that. And when I'm cutting these up, I'm just kind of looking for like bite-sized pieces or about 1 inch each. It doesn't have to be perfect. Just a rough cut is fine. That just makes it a little easier to portion out and having them bite-sized is just a personal preference of mine. You don't have to do that. You could do slices or whatever. Okay, so these look pretty well cooked, but I'm gonna toss them back in the pan just for a few more minutes, also to let them absorb some of those little spices and juices that are left. So again, I'm just gonna stir that up. It's still on low heat. This might take 5 to 8 more minutes, so it shouldn't take too long. The chicken is done, so I'm just gonna put it here in this Tupperware for easy storage. Make sure to get all the little bits in there. And then I will take the lid off my rice. That should be done. Give that a nice stir. It might have some crispy bits at the bottom. That's really good. And then I've got everything else here, so I'm just gonna build my bowl. So what I like to do is start with my yellow rice. And I'm just gonna tear my scale here so that I can record this really easily later. You can use as much as you want. I'm gonna do about 100 grams of the yellow rice. And we've got the macros for all of this on our website in the recipe. And then next I'm going to add my chicken. Actually, next I'm gonna add the iceberg lettuce. Changed my mind there on the order. I think it's gonna set a little bit better. So I'm gonna fill like half the bowl with rice and half the bowl with iceberg lettuce. It's about 50 grams for this bowl. And then I'm gonna add my chicken. So I'm just gonna do about 115 grams today. That should give me 30 something grams of protein, which is perfect for me. I'm just gonna put that right on the top. Great. That looks good. Then I'm going to get a clean spoon. Let's rinse that off really quick. I'm going to add some cucumbers to the top of that. Just put those over here. You can also add cherry tomatoes. Those work really well in this also. And then finally, I'm gonna add that nice halal white sauce. I don't think it's called halal white sauce, it's just called white sauce. But I do about 30 grams of that and I just kind of drizzle it over the top. And then before you eat it, you can just mix it all in. It's really good. Okay, and that's pretty much it. There is the bowl. It's delicious. It's one of my favorites. Again, halal food cart chicken. It's probably something you've gotten at a food cart or a food truck at some point, but it's delicious and really easy to prep. And I can store all of these things in containers in the fridge so that I can easily build a meal when I want it again.